Teachers of Reddit. What's the coolest thing you've confiscated of a child? Lived dragonflies. He was a little 4-year-old boy that would never listen to any of the rules and generally just cause a lot of trouble. Anyway, he would catch dragonflies, without harming them. When you told him to release them, he would open his backpack and 2 or 3 dragonflies would fly out. A note that said, "School makes me feel like a dog waiting to be euthanized." Honestly, the things the youth of today come up with. Muffin, how do you feel about euthanasia? Scorpion in a jar. The kid had put in leaves, twigs, and even some smaller bugs for it to eat, made a real habitat. However, he was clumsy as hell and had a top locker above a concrete floor. No way I was going to risk him smashing the jar and letting it loose in quarter. Gave it back to him at the end of the day with very clear instructions it was not to return to school. Ada, yes, I am in Australia, but in the south, so wasn't a particularly venomous scorpion. The sting would have caused about the same level of irritation as a bee sting, as for someone non-allergic. During the summer between my 9th and 10th year, our area was invaded by these giant wasps that were at least 3x the size of the normal paper wasps and yellow jackets we usually had. Huge, scary-looking duckers that sound like helicopters when they fly, and they were everywhere. I managed to catch one on a mason jar, and it was big enough to take up more than half the bottom of the jar when it wasn't flying. I brought it to school to see if my biology teacher could eat it. He could not, but he kept it anyway. That was a pretty good response on your part. My son took his pet glass snake to school in 5th grade BC. His friends didn't believe he had a pet snake. He brought it in his DS game case, and upon revealing it, the majority of children apparently freaked out. His teacher also freaked out and sent him to the principal, who made him release it into the woods behind the school before they even called me. My son was upset. I was livid to say the least, but nothing to be done at that point. Was it a native species? Still shouldn't have made your son release it, but I hope they didn't have him release an exotic snake of some kind. It was a native species, so there wasn't the concern of releasing an exotic animal. I did think it was rude not to call beforehand. Yeah, it's still BS from the school for sure. I know some species of snake can't survive if caught and released into a new area, even if it's the right habitat. But most people either don't care about snakes or outright hate them, so I doubt the school would have worried about any of that. When I was a casual teacher, I confiscated a knife from a 5-year-old. He threatened me with it when I tried to get him to do his work. It was my first week. Now that's a ducking rough school. We've been spending most our lives living in a gangster's paradise. Churn butter once or twice living in an Amish paradise. As I walk through the valley where I harvest my grain, I take a look at my wife, and realize she's very plain. But that's just perfect for an Amish like me. You see, I shun fancy things like electricity. At 4:30 in the morning I'm milking cows, Jebediah feeds the chickens and Jacob plows, and I've been working and plowing for so long that even Ezekiel thinks my mind is gone. I'm a man of the land, I'm into discipline, got a Bible in my hand and a beard on my chin. But if I finish all of my chores, and you finish thine, then tonight we're gonna party like it's 1699. We've been spending most our lives living in an Amish paradise. A dildo. It was found in the school garden. The kid came up to me and said I found a ding-dong in the garden and am taking it home for mom. I was not professional that day. A raw egg spray painted silver. A live bird caught outside. A homemade hand buzzer. A luchador mask. Are your students the Penguin, Catwoman, the Joker, and Bane? Can I offer you an egg in these trying times? Frozen water bottle full of frozen margarita he was passing to his friends. 8th grade homeroom, so 13-year-old sharing a cocktail at 8 a.m. It was actually kind of clever hiding in plain sight. It did just look like a bottle of frozen water, but my teacher sense told me something was up. Edit, +1 to age. I don't teach anymore and misremembered the age range of 8th graders. I think it was fall semester, though, so more likely 13 than 14 years old. Girl in my high school got busted with a water bottle of vodka. Got busted because she kicked the bottle across the floor to another student. Instead of, passing it in plain view like people would do with a normal water bottle. The odd behavior tipped the teacher. Girl had been bringing it for years without getting busted. A kid at mine got caught with Everclear in a shampoo bottle on an overnight school trip at a hotel. He had forgotten to move it from the in-room fridge to the shower during room inspection. A teacher looked the entire room over and found nothing wrong, even congratulated the kids on not having anything they should, then on the way out half-jokingly said something along the lines of, "And I bet y'all must have all sorts of prohibited stuff in the fridge," and opened it, noticing the shampoo bottle. Those kids could stomach straight Everclear, but not warm booze. What a bunch of amateurs. A redback spider from the gently closed palm of a 7-year-old boy's hand, almost every recess for a month before I figured out a way to make him stop. He was never bitten. What made him finally stop? I told him I'd keep him down to repeat year 2 if he did it again, because it's not very smart to kidnap a poisonous spider away from its family. Edit, venomous not poisonous. How did you get him to remove it out of his palm? Did you put it in a jar and throw it out, or what? I'd be shitting myself if I saw one. He took it to the bushes and let it crawl off his hand. Maybe he's like a dark Disney princess. There was a big conspiracy of exam paper trading going on around the area my school is located in. Some kid figured out a way to get the independent exam that several of the schools would purchase each year. He sold copies to anyone who would buy them, including our students. We confiscated a copy of the exam with a different school's logo on it before it was issued to our students. Eventually my school figured out we couldn't buy exams from this seller anymore, as the papers for most subjects, English, Maths, Chem etc., always made it to the kids through the black market. To my knowledge, the seller was never caught. I'm just imaging a young Edward Snowden leaking documents then hiding out behind the bike sheds. Sounds like an episode of Recess or Hey Arnold. One time in high school my geometry teacher tried to take the phone of a kid who she thought was texting during class. Turns out, he had cut a hole in his jacket and was actually just masturbating. So she confiscated the penis? One of my teachers took my yo-yo and tried to do a trick she once knew and smashed a window. One of my teachers took my yo-yo and said I was pretty good at this back in the day. He then proceeded to do about 5 tricks in succession. We were all impressed. I was a very casual yo-er, and he gave me this smug look and said, "Show me your best trick." I shamefully put the yo-yo back in my bag. Now that's an adult role model. When you're old as dirt, humorless English teacher walks the dog and then goes around the world, visits the Eiffel Tower and then rocks the baby, you garner a new kind of respect. I always wonder what the teacher did with Dad's 30 porn mag I brought to school when I was 7. It's probably why you got to leave early that day. Her mother's clitoral vibrator. She brought it to school, age 8, and told her friends it was her, the students, tension reliever, and that her mother told her to rub it across her forehead when she felt mad. She then had all of her classmates do the same. To be fair, I didn't confiscate it, my in-room intervention specialist did. And Maya's had no idea what it was, so she took it with her bare hands, put it in her pocket, and carried on with her day. Later on, she tried to hand it off to me and I clued her in. Just another reason Maya's that year hated me with a burning passion. Edit to add, we called the mom. Mom confirmed what it was, that it was used as such. Kid had stolen it without permission. Also, is short for intervention specialist, just like the sentence right before I began using the abbreviation. An intervention specialist is a special ed teacher. I worked in an elementary school for kids with oppositional defiance disorder, so 95% of the kids there were special ed with extreme anger issues. Just another reason Maya's that year hated me with a burning passion. It's your fault for being better informed than I am. Should have kept the tension reliever.